Number 5 is Digestive Bitters. I love this one because everybody can do it. There's no downside. Low stomach acid, what caused it and how do you fix it? In this quick video, I'm going to show you the most common causes, and I can guarantee if you have low stomach acid that at least one of these are probably the culprit, but usually it's multiple. Okay, so you can see what you find here, but I'm also going to go through the remedies, the things that you can do to help increase your stomach acid while you're addressing the root causes that are causing the problem to start with, so that you have a Band-Aid effect until you bring your body's ability back up to make your own stomach acid. So I'm going to share my screen here. And share with you here what I put together about low stomach acid. So if you're watching this video, maybe you already did my at-home free stomach acid test. It's nice to not have to pay for an expensive lab for this. So let's run over low stomach acid. So why is your stomach acid so low? Like I just said, it's usually not one thing. So let's run through 8 different causes of low stomach acid and see for yourself how many of these may apply to you. Number 1, stress. Does that apply to you? It applies to most people. So it's not just big stresses, but it's also little stresses. So the stress of having chronic health issues is stressful. If you've got big infections or toxicities like Lyme disease, co-infections, mold toxicity, those things are big stresses. But even stressful issues like employment or lack of employment, or stress due to relationships, all the way down to the small stresses. I call it the scroll stress. So when you're eating, you're scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, or worse yet, the news, bad news, stressful news. And that creates stress on the body. So do as much as you can. I know it's easy to say, do as much as you can to de-stress, but especially during meals. Don't eat when you're standing and walking around. Don't eat while you're driving. Sit peacefully without a newspaper, a magazine, your phone. Just sit and relax and let your body do what it's trying to do, which is especially important if you have an issue with stomach acid or any other gut issues. You want the body's full attention on digestion, not on dealing with stress. Number 2 is poor diet. Your body needs the proper nutrients to make stomach acid. So if you're eating garbage food, you're not getting the nutrients you need, and you're just cycling this problem of not being able to break down food. But even when what it does break down, it's not getting the proper nutrients from. H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori. That's why we say H. It's a mouthful. So H. pylori can cause, the odd time it can cause high stomach acid, but the bulk majority of the time it will lower stomach acid. And it's a bacteria that spirals in. I know nobody likes the word spirochete due to what we're used to with what we know about Borrelia, but it will go right into the wall of the tissue of the stomach. And it doesn't kill your parietal cells that secrete your hydrochloric acid, but it inhibits their ability in some way. The mechanism isn't exactly known, but it inhibits their ability to secrete stomach acid. So as the worse your H. pylori infection, the less stomach acid those parietal cells are able to make, and it keeps low stomach acid production, means you have lower stomach acid. Number 4 is low nutrients. So people that are chronically unwell, especially with, like in my niche is mold toxicity and Lyme disease and co-infections, you'll burn through different vitamins and minerals and nutrients in your body, your B vitamins, your magnesium, your zinc, all those things that are also needed for the healthy creation and amount of stomach acid. So when your body is using those up due to chronic issues, it affects your stomach acid. 5, PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, their sole purpose is to lower stomach acid. So if you're on a PPI and been on it for a little bit, it's likely affected your stomach acid, and that is just the first domino in destroying all of your digestion and good gut bacteria and creating a severe dysbiosis in the gut. So PPIs, big problem for those. Shouldn't be on PPIs. Find out what the root cause is, address that. PPIs in the name of lowering stomach acid to stop the symptoms, which are usually due to low stomach acid. It just compounds the problem greatly. Antacids, their purpose is to neutralize stomach acid. Tums are made of what? Calcium. Calcium is an alkaline mineral to bring up the acidity, to be anti-inflammatory, to be anti-acidic. So as you keep popping antacids, you're literally making the pH of your stomach acid higher, which you don't want. Your stomach acid has to be low, to be hot, to break down the food and kill any incoming pathogens there. Poor bile flow. Stomach acid and bile have a direct relationship. When stomach acid is released with your food into the duodenum and your small intestine, the bile comes in not only to emulsify fats, but it's also coming in as a high alkalizing agent to raise the pH of the stomach acid so that it doesn't just burn through your small intestine. If you didn't have bile, that stomach acid is not being cooled off, and it would be severely painful among other problems. So when your body sees you don't have enough bile flow, it can adjust the stomach acid to protect itself. And what wrecks bile flow? Chronic infections and toxins, especially mycotoxins. And then we have infections and toxins. So that's just an overall, touched on it a couple times there. Chronic infections and toxins do affect every part of the digestive tract. So now what? Okay, so we've got all the bad news. We've got all those things that can inhibit healthy stomach acid levels and creation. Did you have more than one? Remember I said there's usually multiple. I'm curious. I bet you had more than one. So now what? What can we do? So we looked at 8 things that affect stomach acid negatively. Here's 8 ways you can help address it until we get your body restored to making its own stomach acid at the proper amount. Number 1, real food. So like we talked about in the last section, you got to keep the garbage out, eat real food, real fruit, real vegetables. If you're a meat eater, make sure it's organic, grass-fed as much as possible, because your body needs the nutrients from the real food to contribute towards making stomach acid. Fermented vegetables can be good when you're trying to raise stomach acid and increase the good bacteria in your gut. But because most people I work with have an issue with mold, anything fermented is out. So that is not one that I use with people. And if you're one of my clients watching this, you would have already heard from me to not have the kombucha and the other fermented veggies. Apple cider vinegar is something that a lot of people say. You could take this 10, 15, 20 minutes before a meal. It helps add to the acid level of your stomach to try to boost the acidity in the stomach for helping your stomach acid out. But again, this isn't one I use with many people, because if the lining of your stomach is raw from any number of problems in the stomach, when the apple cider vinegar comes down the esophagus, it can coat that wall of the stomach and cause more irritation and pain. Whereas if you're taking like hydrochloric acid tablets or something, they're just dropping in the acid, not like coating the stomach. And because of it's a vinegar and made from fermentation, if you're a moldy or limey with any histamine issues or mast cell activation, you would not touch apple cider vinegar. So I don't use that one much either. But if you don't have any of those issues, that's an option. So your stomach acid is directly related to the secretion of enzymes by the pancreas. And if your stomach acid isn't hot enough, like you don't have enough stomach acid or hot enough, it's not triggering the pancreas to release enzymes. Those two are tied together. So if you have low stomach acid, you're very likely going to see on the gut zoomer stool test lab that I run with people, it's going to check your pancreatic elastase. It'll give you a measurement. Very often you're going to see your enzyme production is low, and that's mirroring stomach acid. Low stomach acid, you're not getting the enzymes you need. And if your pancreas isn't spitting out enough enzymes, you need to supplement with those as a temporary thing until you get your own stomach acid and enzyme production up. So take those with meals, especially if you're eating something harder to break down like proteins. Number 5 is Digestive Bitters. I love this one because everybody can do it. There's no downside. Well, unless you're a kid, then it's, yeah, because it's so bitter. If I'm working with you and it's for one of your kids, they may not love the bitters. You can try them at very low dose, but it's bitter. Like I take them myself sometimes, if I remember, and it wows you every time. Okay. It's not, you just do this, right? So Digestive Bitters, just a lot of bitter herbs in a tincture. You put some, you can use a shot glass, fill it with distilled water, put in half a teaspoon or a teaspoon of bitters, and slam that back 15 minutes before a meal. Try to hold it in your mouth, 3-5 seconds if you can, and that will really fire things up, if you know what I mean. Hydrochloric acid tablets. This is an easy way to raise your stomach acid. Do not take these 20 minutes beforehand because you're raising your stomach acid as soon as you take them. So some people will take them right at the end of the meal. It's okay to take them, right when you're starting. It's okay to take them in the middle of the meal, but don't take them far ahead of time. And this is a great way to to raise the stomach acid. I use Biotics Research. Do I have any sitting here? I don't see it now, but I use Biotics Research hydrochloric acid HCl tablets because it also has pepsin with it. Manage nutrients. So I think I mentioned this earlier. What happens is your body burns through these essential nutrients that are also required for making stomach acid. So whenever you have someone really chronic, you'll see stomach acid down, and because they're chronic, they're burning through what you see here. Sodium, potassium, zinc, magnesium, Bs, all those things get burned through in chronic conditions, and those are all needed for stomach acid. And let's talk about sodium and potassium first. That's best measured by a hair tissue mineral analysis. That's where we literally take a little bit of hair, send it to the lab, and it will give you a reading of the last 90 days activity basically in your body of where these things are sitting. So it'll check your sodium, potassium, your calcium, magnesium, all the other cofactors, and also heavy metals, which is a bonus on that, because as your body's pushing these minerals out, as it's burning through them, you can actually measure them with your hair. So that's a great lab. If I haven't already talked to you about that, be sure to shoot me a message, but that's a great way to check that. And lastly, lower stress. And I talked about this at the start. You need to make sure you're doing everything you can to lower your stress level, because that directly affects your stomach acid and digestion. So make sure you're sitting to eat, you're staying calm, and when pray, meditate, stop the scroll, everything you can do to stop any stress while you're eating. And this is obvious, but some people feel like, and I get it, you feel like once you start these protocols, they're big, they're expensive, they're long, it seems like it's never going to end, but it is just a temporary change. So raising your stomach acid is, we've got a lot of great tools here, but the whole point of this is to make sure, is to work on the root causes, the infections, the toxicity, as you keep bringing them down, and then you add in these aids to increase your stomach acid, you'll get to the point where your body's getting back to do what it's supposed to do. It's going to make its own stomach acid, and then that's going to trigger your pancreas to put out the right enzymes, and you're not going to be doing all this. You will be working on bile flow with other formulas and stuff too. So all these things will come together, but when we first find out if stomach acid is an issue, we need to make sure that we address that. All right, so if you have any questions about any of this, reach out to me, shoot me an email. If you're already a client, you've got my email. If not, visit pharmacy.com, pharmacy.com, and let me know. And I have access to these labs for you, or these supplements if you need those. So that's the common causes of low stomach acid. Those are the remedies to help address it. Again, it's temporary. The diet is not temporary. Keep your diet dialed in. You need clean air, clean food, clean water at all times. So that's all I have for this video. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to connect, and we'll talk again. Bye-bye.
Do you need help ordering any of the labs or supplements mentioned by Matt in this video? Or maybe you're stuck in your health journey and need a one-on-one consultation with Matt to determine your next best step. Visit pharmacy.com or email office@pharmacy.com to get the guidance you need today.